Hi, Prime Minister. Pleasure to welcome you to Canada, and thank you so much for your time today.
Well, the pleasure is mine.
This is the first time a Greek Prime Minister has visited Canada in almost 41 years, in four decades. Why now?
Well, it's been a long time. I guess that's one good reason. We're very close partners who work together on numerous geopolitical issues. I think this is the right time to further strengthen our economic ties. As you know, Greece has been, making up, I think, a rather impressive comeback economically. We've left the crisis year behind us. And I feel this is a good time to make the case also to the Canadian business community that they should take a good look at Greece and consider deploying capital there.
I do want to talk about the economic relationship and those economic ties, and in particular zero in on the trading relationship, especially to start off with respect to CETA, the free trade agreement between the EU and Canada. There's been some big stumbling blocks lately, namely just a few days ago, the Senate in France voted against ratifying it. When will Greece ratify CETA?
Well, we hopefully will ratify it soon. We still have some outstanding issues regarding some products whose geographical origin or particular nature we protect, such as feta, for example. We want to make sure that feta cheese, when it is sold in Canada, is the actual feta cheese, and only Greece technically has the right to produce feta. But I think once these issues are going to be sorted out, we'll be very, very happy to ratify the agreement. In principle, I'm very much in favor of these types of free trade agreements, although I understand that there are some difficulties with other countries, but we'll sort out our differences.
You are, though, as you said, you are in principle supportive of CETA, and the reason I ask very specifically is because there is growing sentiment in certain aspects of other countries, particularly in the case of France, for example, from farmers, about liberalized trade and negative impacts that they perceive of it. You're not worried?
In principle, I think that if we manage to sort out issues which are sensitive to all involved parties, free trade agreements work for everyone. But again, for example, we have a very, sensitive issue when it comes to, products which are of Greek origin, which, according to European law, only Greece can produce. And we feel that the same sort of rules need to apply within the context of a free trade agreement. So particular sensitivities need to be taken into consideration.
And do you anticipate that the issues that you're referencing will be resolved anytime soon? And the reason I ask is you had a minister here last year and the year before. He made the same comment, essentially. Once those are resolved, we remain in support and we will ratify. But that was
let's hope that's going to be one of the issues I'll discuss with the Prime Minister. But again, I don't want this to monopolize our agenda. We have a very broad agenda, and I do need to point out that Canadian companies have been active investors in Greece, and they actually invested during the financial crisis. So if they did so during the financial crisis, there is an additional reason why they would do so much more right now.
You talked about renewables and sources of energy, and I know that's been an especially pertinent discussion in Europe ever since Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the transition away from Russian gas. We've had other European leaders here in Canada say if it were more available to them, they would be interested in Canada's LNG, liquefied natural gas. Is that the same for you?
That's the same for Greece. We are a big entry point for LNG, not just for the Greek market, but also for the Balkans, for Eastern Europe. Theoretically, we could even supply Ukraine. We have a floating storage and regasification unit up in northern Greece, which is coming online. And of course, the point of this infrastructure is not just to serve the Greek market, but also to serve our neighbors towards the north. So in principle, yes, we are very interested in obtaining LNG at competitive prices. As fast as we go in terms of our renewable penetration, we will still need a reliable source of electricity. And for us, for Greece, we don't have nuclear. We've practically completely moving away from coal. So that leaves natural gas for the foreseeable future as a significant source of energy for the production of electricity.
Is Canada, given the current geopolitical status of things, an ideal partner in that, do you think? Could be an ideal partner?
Absolutely. Again, Canada is a country which we share so many values. And again, as I pointed out at the beginning, the Greek-Canadian community serves as a natural bridge between our two countries. So we're cooperating with Canada on geopolitical issues, Ukraine, Gaza, I think we see eye to eye on many of the challenges that we face, and of course it is up to the liberal democracies of the West to ensure that we have a common front against the Russian aggression, and Canada is an indispensable partner in this effort.
I want to ask about that front because right from the start, Greece has been unequivocally supportive of Ukraine. You recently traveled to Odessa, and there was a series of, very troubling things that happened while you were there. Did that experience change or impart anything on your view of what's happening and what has to happen in response to Russia's aggression?
I think it reinforced my belief that we need to support Ukraine in order to help the Ukrainians defend themselves. And it is very clear that we need to do more in terms of assistance. We've made it very clear to the Ukrainians that we want to help. They know what we can do and what we cannot do, and the same is true for many other European countries. And one of the topics that we are discussing at the European Council is how can we help Ukraine make sure that they have the necessary equipment to defend themselves. For example, we've made pledges regarding shells because they are short of artillery shells, and we need to make sure that we help them in that direction. But once you go to Ukraine, especially in Odessa, you understand that for us it may be just a few hours in what is a war zone, and we actually had a sort of rather troubling experience of witnessing a missile explosion not too far from where we were in the Odessa port. But for those people, this is their everyday reality, and we have an obligation as liberal Western democracies to stand up against aggression and to make it very clear that any change of border through violence can in principle not be accepted.
Europe is very unified to a large degree on this issue. There is a large amount of aid currently stuck in the United States. How concerning is that to you?
It is concerning, and I do hope that the US Congress is going to resolve this issue. We did our part, and I think we're also sending a signal to the US that they also need to overcome all these sometimes procedural delays and deliver when it comes to financial assistance. It also took us some time, but we managed to reach a unanimous agreement to support Ukraine with 50 billion euros over the next 4 years. This is a significant amount of money that keeps the Ukrainian economy functioning. And I would hope that the US takes note of what has happened in Europe, and that they will also step up to the plate and deliver the necessary assistance as soon as possible.
Greece, the US, Europe, and Canada are all key members, obviously, of NATO as well, which factors into this aspect of the discussion. There is a lot of conversation in this country about defense spending targets. Your country exceeds NATO's defense spending target currently. Does that target matter in your view?
Of course, it does matter. We are spending, and we've been spending ever since we joined NATO, more than 2% of our GDP on defense. We have done it because we have our particular geographical and geopolitical challenges. But it is important for all other countries to reach the 2% target as quickly as possible. And especially for European countries, I think it is imperative to send a signal that we will be able to defend ourselves, and that we need to spend not just more, but also to be able to be smarter in terms of our defense spending. And this, of course, also relates to being able to streamline procurement rules when it comes to defense purchases. It means better cooperation amongst our European defense industries. But at the end of the day, NATO is only as strong as the sum of its parts. And the more every single country spends on defense, the stronger NATO will be.
You mentioned the imperative for Europe. Does the imperative, in your view, also exist for Canada? Because Canada does not yet even have a plan to get to 2%.
I think that every NATO country should get to 2% as quickly as possible. And of course, I do understand there's always a temptation, not to spend money on defense and spend it on other priorities. But in our case, we never had that luxury. And we always spend more than 2% on defense, and then we also had to make sure we found enough money for all other budgetary items. But to the extent that this is a collective goal, of the NATO alliance. I think it is important for all countries to reach that goal.
Okay, I'll leave it on that note. Prime Minister, I'm out of time. Eferisto Poli.
Εγώ ευχαριστώ. Thank you very much.
Thank you.